After a lifetime of toiling without complaint, I took sick leave and returned home, only to walk in on my husband in bed with his childhood sweetheart. When are we getting a divorce? Our son is already so grown up. A divorce would be a bad look, widowhood would be better. After finding me, my husband watched coldly as I lost my footing, tumbled down the stairs, and died, reborn. I returned to the day I submitted the marriage application, without hesitation. I swapped the marriage application for a transfer request. This time, I'm going to the desert to plant trees, grass, and roses, to hem the shifting sands with a border of blossoms. I checked my watch. Quitting time was almost here. I walked straight into the director's office. Director Chin was tidying up some documents. Seeing me enter, he stopped what he was doing and gestured for me to take a seat. Shaolin, your transfer request has been approved. He handed me the transfer document stamped with a red seal. May I ask the reason? Taking the document, I looked down at it, a faint smile appearing at the corner of my mouth. Director Chin, as you know, my field of study is desertification control. Only by going back can I truly put my knowledge to use, serving society and the people. Besides, my parents were among the very first to join the construction corps. They dedicated the better part of their lives there. And now it's my turn to go back and take up the baton. Director Chin's expression turned solemn as he rose to his feet. Shaolin, I am genuinely impressed by your dedication. As he spoke, he extended his hand toward me. I stood up and shook his hand. You have 3 days to hand over your duties. And, I wish you every success in your future endeavors, Director Chin said with a sigh. After thanking Director Chin, I was about to leave when he called me back. Does Xiaoshi know you're being transferred? Xiaoshi, Shirharan, my fiancé. We had already submitted our marriage application and were just waiting for our work units to stamp it before heading to the Civil Affairs Bureau to get our marriage certificate. Since I was being transferred away all of a sudden, I definitely needed to ask Shirharan for his thoughts. Don't worry, Director Chin, I'll make it clear to him. I blinked, a hint of playfulness in my expression. He's a very understanding man. He might even decide to come with me. Director Chin let out a hearty laugh. No matter how many of you go, I'll personally file the report and make sure you get the recognition you deserve across the whole system. After leaving the director's office, I headed straight back to my dorm. To my surprise, Shirharan was pacing back and forth at the entrance, a look of deep irritation on his face, a black full-leather briefcase in his hand. The moment he saw me, he tossed his half-smoked cigarette to the ground and crushed it under his heel. Where have you been? I've been waiting here for half an hour. I ignored him, unlocked the door, and went inside. This wasn't like me at all. Shirharan frowned and followed me in. Ching. I know you're still upset about the apartment, he said, a note of resignation in his voice, but we're still young. We'll have plenty of other chances to get a place. Chung Kai and Yaya are different. They just got married. And living in that tube-shaped dormitory is really inconvenient for them, so, let's just give this opportunity to them. I folded the dried clothes one by one and packed them into my travel bag. Since the transfer request has been approved, I plan to set off for my hometown as soon as possible. Seeing that I didn't respond, Shirharan walked up to me, placed his hands on my shoulders, and said in a low, firm voice, Ching. Be reasonable. I'm not asking for your opinion here, you know. As a public official of some standing, my duties should always come before personal comfort. Besides, when it comes time for my performance review, having voluntarily given up my housing allocation will look very good on my record. Ching, we're about to get married. I know you wouldn't hold me back, right? I pulled my hand free and replied flatly, I understand. Shirharan's furrowed brow relaxed. With a smile, he patted my shoulder and said to me gently, I knew it. You're always so sensible, Ching. Once our marriage application is approved, we'll have a grand wedding. I've already got all the purchase vouchers for the 4 big items ready. You hold on to them for now. He excitedly stuffed the shopping vouchers into my hand, picked up his briefcase, and headed for the door. Just as he was leaving, he turned back and said, Oh, by the way, Yaya mentioned that she and her husband want to treat us to dinner tomorrow night. Chung Kai makes an amazing soup. I seem to remember you have some ginseng slices, don't you? Without a second thought, he came back, rummaged through my desk drawer, and pulled out that little packet of ginseng slices. He flashed me a smile and said, Let Chung Kai stew it with chicken. You could use a good tonic. If I hadn't known he was already carrying on with Min Yaya at that point, I would have been completely taken in by his little performance and gladly handed over the housing allocation spot to her. What a shame. I will never marry Shirharan in this lifetime, and of course, my spot on the housing allocation list will be revoked. Looking back, the way Shirharan and I met was rather melodramatic. During my internship, I was assigned to a farm under the city's forestry bureau. It was my first time in the mountains, and with no experience, I inevitably got lost. Shirhauran, the head of the Forest Farm's security department at the time, found me in the woods with his flashlight, in the dead of night, deep in the old forest. He was like a guardian angel sent from above. I felt an instant, natural affinity for Shirhauran. After graduation, I was assigned to work at the Forestry Bureau. As luck would have it, Shirhauran was also transferred there. The two of us naturally ended up together. After dating for a year, we submitted our marriage application. Right at that time, the Bureau was about to allocate welfare housing. Considering we were both key staff members and about to get married, the Bureau made a special exception and allocated us an apartment. I was absolutely thrilled. Back then, my parents sent me to live with my grandmother so I could receive a good education and have a bright future. Even though my grandmother and uncle were family, and my aunt was very kind, I always felt a lack of belonging, as if I were living under someone else's roof. I longed to have my own house, my own home. Now, all of that is about to come true. How could I not be overjoyed? Just as I was over the moon, planning what furniture to buy and how to arrange each piece, Shirhauran threw a bucket of cold water on my excitement. He intended to give this apartment to another couple from our unit, Minyaya and Chunkai. Minyaya was his classmate, the kind who were together from elementary school all the way through high school. However, after graduating high school, Minyaya didn't get into university and instead took over her father's position, starting work at the Forestry Bureau. Not long after starting work, I met Chunkai through a blind date, and we got married very quickly. Because of the kindness shown in the gift of the house, the few of us remained very close friends for the years that followed. Later on, Chunkai passed away in a car accident. Shirhauran said that Minyaya was struggling to raise the child on her own, so he would often go over to help and look after them, and just like that, over a decade of caregiving went by. That is, until I discovered their secret. One day, I had a high fever and came home early after taking sick leave. The moment I opened the door, I saw clothes scattered all over the floor, outerwear, underwear, socks. From the bedroom came the sound of soft, breathy moans that made one's ears burn and heart race. My head instantly began to buzz, hot blood rushed upwards, and my heart pounded so hard it felt like it would leap from my throat. In my shock and fury, I didn't even notice when the sounds from the bedroom finally stopped. As my senses returned, I heard Minyaya ask Shirhauran in her soft, cloying voice, "When exactly are you going to divorce Lin Shuiqing? I need a proper reason. Don't tell me you've fallen for her. How could that be? You know my heart has always belonged to you. Besides, in my position, a divorce without cause would look bad. If you can't get a divorce, then do what I did, become a widow. Let Lin Shuiqing die the same way Chunkai did. Let me think about it." Hearing this, a chill ran through my veins. Chunkai, that quiet man whose whole world revolved around Minyaya, his death wasn't an accident. Was it Shirhauran and Minyaya who pulled this stunt? How dare they? Overwhelmed with terror, I accidentally knocked over a stool. Alerting Shirhauran and Minyaya to my presence, I turned and fled, but in my panic, I missed a step and tumbled down the stairs. When I next became aware, I found, to my astonishment, that I had been transported back to my youth. I had just submitted our marriage application together with Shirhauran. We had just been notified that the Forestry Bureau had allocated an apartment to us. I decisively submitted my job transfer request, and it was approved the very next day. I looked at the document in my hand, stamped with a red seal. 3 days. I only have 3 days left before I leave this place. In these 3 days, I will expose Shirhauran and Minyaya for who they truly are. The next day, I handed over some of my work to a colleague and took the afternoon off to visit my grandmother's house. My grandmother lives with my uncle and aunt. Ever since I returned to the city after finishing primary school, they've been the ones looking after me. Ching. What's with all these things? My aunt was surprised to see the milk powder, fruit candies, and malted milk powder I was putting in my bag. She chided me gently. "You're about to get married. You should be saving your money to buy things for yourself. Auntie, all of these are for Grandma. I still have money of my own." As I said this, I took out the gift voucher Shirhauran had given me. "This one is for you." Taking the item I handed over, my aunt looked even more surprised. "Where did you get this? These days, you need a ration ticket for just about everything." My uncle had long wanted to buy a bicycle, and my cousin, now in high school studying English, needed a cassette recorder. As for my aunt, she had the family's tailoring skills passed down through generations. In her past life, she had built a fortune with this very craft, but for now, she was still stuck with an old, clunky sewing machine, which really hampered her productivity. A sudden thought struck Auntie. Ching, could this be from Xiaoshi? For your wedding, she pushed the shopping receipt back. I really can't accept this, Auntie, please, keep it, it's all from me, we'll have plenty more in the future. Only after much persuasion did Auntie hesitantly accept it. When I got back from my grandma's place, Shirharan and Minyaya were already waiting for me at the dorm entrance. They were standing side by side. And they actually looked like a pretty good match. Oh, ching ching. Minyaya spotted me right away. She came over with a smile and gave my shoulder a hearty slap. Where have you been? I was just telling Stone that maybe you were mad about the apartment and didn't want to see me. I smiled, meeting her gaze directly. The way you're talking, it's like I'm not willing to let you have the apartment. If Shirharan gets the wrong idea, he'd be furious with me. Minyaya was caught off guard, then averted her eyes. I was just saying it off the top of my head. You're really overthinking this. Seeing her flustered expression made me want to laugh even more. Minyaya has always been like this, outwardly straightforward and easygoing, acting like one of the guys with everyone. Words, once spoken, always leave room for interpretation upon closer thought. I must have been blind in my past life not to see through her act. Shirharan, worried that Minyaya might feel awkward, quickly stepped over and said, Yaya came specifically to invite you to dinner. Let's go. Chunkai has been waiting at home for a long time. Chunkai is a man who's quite the cook. In that cramped little dorm room he shared with Minyaya, he somehow managed to prepare a full table of food, 4 hot dishes, 2 cold dishes, and a clear, shimmering chicken soup. You made it. Chunkai smiled warmly, rubbing his hands on his apron. My gaze fell as I looked at the bottle of wine and 2 bottles of soda pop arranged on the table. Chunkai was a transport driver for the Forestry Bureau. In his past life, he drove drunk, causing the car to plunge into a pond, where he drowned. But after knowing him for several years, I was aware that he didn't usually drink, but at the time, I was solely focused on comforting Minyaya, who was crying her heart out, and completely overlooked this fact. Sure too, you're a real one. Minyaya poured 2 glasses of red wine. She picked one up, downed it in one go in front of Shirharan, and said with a laugh, giving up the housing allocation spot just like that, say no more, it's all in the drink. With that, she poured herself another glass and drained it clean. Shirharan stopped her hand as she reached for the bottle again. Is this your way of saying thanks, or are you just seizing the chance to hog the wine? What's that supposed to mean? Worried I'll run you dry. Minyaya stood up, displeased, went to the cabinet, and pulled out a bottle of baijiu. She shook it at Shirharan. See this, tonight, we drink until we drop. Then, down went another shot of Matai. With a challenging look at Shirharan, he said, I've downed 3 in a row. How about you, Stone? Shirharan shook his head. A hint of unconscious fondness on his face, then poured and drank 3 shots himself. The 2 of them turned their empty glasses toward each other at the same time, shared a knowing smile, their understanding seamless. Chunkai opened his mouth to say something, but before a word could escape, Minyaya pointed at him with a laugh and a scold. Chunkai, we agreed to thank Stone and his wife. Don't you dare be a killjoy. I just wanted you to have a bite to eat. Chunkai, that simple soul, immediately backed down and didn't dare say another word. He rubbed his hands together, poured me a glass of soda, and said, Shaolin, have this, come on, eat up. He then enthusiastically served me more food. I picked up a peanut and popped it in my mouth, then raised my glass to Chunkai with a smile. They're drinking wine, so let's use this as a substitute. Hey, Ching Ching, you're such a killjoy, Minyaya said, slapping the table as she looked at the soda in my hand. I'm treating. And you're just having soda. Do you look down on me or something? I put down my chopsticks and looked at Minyaya with a faint, ambiguous smile. If you're going to put it that way, then I guess I really do look down on you. Ching Ching. Shirharan frowned, cutting me off. He shot me a warning look, telling me not to say another word. Minyaya froze for a moment, then her anger flared. I knew it. You're a college graduate, so you look down on people like me without a degree. Ever since Shirtu first introduced you to us, you've been giving me the cold shoulder. She fixed her reddened eyes on me. But listen here, Lin Shuiqing, just because my education isn't as high as yours doesn't mean I'm any less than you. This must have been what she truly felt. Even in my past life, I could sense her faint, almost imperceptible hostility. However, Shirharan kept telling me that Minyaya was just a blunt, straightforward person who spoke without thinking. He told me not to overthink it, struggling to recall all the grievances I could remember. My eyes welled up with tears. Yeah, what do you mean by that? If you truly considered us friends, you wouldn't keep bringing up the matter of the house. Just today, I've heard you mention it twice. What should be a simple act of helping a friend out has become this constant reminder, and it feels like you're insulting our friendship. That's why I said I've lost respect for you. You twisted my words. And I demand an apology." My voice trembled with emotion as I pulled a handkerchief from my pocket and dabbed at my eyes. The more I tried to wipe them away, the more the tears flowed uncontrollably. Seeing me like this, Shahraran couldn't keep up his cold demeanor any longer. He placed a hand on my shoulder and said softly, "Yaya's had too much to drink and is talking nonsense. Just ignore her. She'll definitely regret it tomorrow when she sobers up." I shrugged off his hand, stood up, and said loudly, "You're still defending her, even now." Shahraran's expression changed. "Shaolin, what do you mean by that?" Qin Kai asked. Looking utterly bewildered, I avoided his gaze, sniffled, and said, "I'm not feeling well today. I'm leaving." I rushed to the door, flung it open, and ran out of Minyaya's dorm without looking back. Shahraran called out and tried to run after me, but Minyaya held him back. She threw an arm around Shahraran's neck, giving him a sidelong glance. "You're not gonna ditch your buddies just for your girlfriend, are you?" Shahraran sighed helplessly. "I'm going to check on Qingqing. She seemed down these past few days. I'm worried she got criticized at work." "Qin Kai, you go check." Minyaya raised her voice, ordering him, "Go drag her back. That's the problem with you college kids. You make a huge fuss over the smallest things. If you ask me, she's just sulking with you over the apartment issue." "I don't think it's that," Shahraran said, trying to be fair. She agreed to it herself. "After all, you two go ahead and drink. I'm going to check on Shaolin." Qin Kai stood up, untied his apron, and hurried out after her. I wasn't walking very fast. In fact, when I reached the entrance of the tenement building, I deliberately leaned against the doorframe, lowered my head, and covered my mouth, from behind, with my head bowed and my hair falling to either side of my face. I looked for all the world like I was crying. "Shaolin," Qin Kai caught up with me, looking a bit flustered and unsure of what to do. "Sorry about that. Yaya's had a bit too much to drink. That's just how she is, loves her wine but can't hold it. Please don't be upset with her." I shook my head. "Qin Kai, I'm not upset with her." At that point, I paused, looked up at Qin Kai standing before me, and hesitated, the words catching in my throat. "Shaolin, is there something you want to say?" "Qin Kai, do you think there's something off about them?" Qin Kai was an honest man, but he wasn't a fool. People in the unit were practically at each other's throats over the allocation of the welfare housing slots. He was just a driver at his workplace, and his wife only did odd jobs. Neither of them had worked there long enough to even be eligible for housing allocation, yet Shahraran actually gave up the apartment he had secured and let their family have it. Qin Kai had already been suspicious. Minyaya scolded him for being so ungrateful. "Stone and I grew up together. We've been classmates since elementary school." He saw how cramped and inconvenient it was for us newlyweds in this tiny place, so he kindly gave up his spot for us. And instead of being grateful, "You're suspicious, Qin Kai. Have you no shame?" After that torrent of scolding, Qin Kai had to admit she had a point. So he dropped the subject and didn't dwell on it further. But now, with my question, that seed of doubt in his heart was unearthed once more. He fell silent. After a long pause, he finally spoke with difficulty. "Yaya, her personality, Qin Kai. Stop lying to yourself." I raised my voice, sounding agitated. How many easygoing women, after getting married, would call other men brother and hug them all the time? I turned my face away. "No matter what you think, I can't accept it." Qin Kai stood with his hands on his hips, a pained expression on his face. "Shaolin, you've got it all wrong, whether it's a misunderstanding or not. Deep down you know the truth, don't you?" I interjected softly, cutting Qin Kai off. I looked up at the overcast night sky, tears streaming down my face. "Hey, Shaolin, don't cry. I'll go get Stone." The awkward man turned and started to run upstairs. I knew Qin Kai wasn't much of a talker. When trouble arose, his first instinct was to find someone more eloquent. But how could I let him go back at a time like this? There's no way those two in the dorm could have pulled that off in such a short time. Shaking my head through tears, I turned and ran toward the bus stop. "Shaolin, where are you going?" Seeing I wasn't heading back to the Forestry Bureau dorm, Qin Kai panicked and blocked my path. "It's so late. Why don't you wait for sure too? I'm going to Grandma's house. Just leave me alone." I pushed Qin Kai aside and ran towards the bus stop. Ugh. Qin Kai, who was behind me, looked at me, then glanced back at the building upstairs, before striding over to catch up with me and escort me to the bus stop. It was almost 9 o'clock by the time we got to the station. "The last bus won't be here for a while," Qin Kai said, clearly anxious. I pursed my lips. "You should head back." "I can't do that. It's pitch black out here. It's not safe for a woman alone. I'll wait until you're on the bus." I have to admit, while Qin Kai may not have Shahraran's level of education or his privileged family background, he is genuinely a very considerate man. When you compare the two, it's clear that Qin Kai is the one you could build a stable, down-to-earth life with. What on earth was Minyaya thinking? To do away with a husband like that and skulk around in the shadows with Shirharan, living like rats in a gutter with no name or status. I just don't get it. Chunkai, you should head back first. I finally stopped crying and said softly to him, keep an eye on them. Shirharan gets rowdy when he's drunk. Minyaya does too. Chunkai hesitated for a moment. Seeing there were still several people waiting at the bus stop, he finally made up his mind. Alright, I'll go back and check on them. Shaolin, don't overthink it, they're just good friends. He paused, then added, so am I. With that, he hurried back, unable to wait a moment longer. I stood there quietly for a few minutes, watching his figure recede into the distance. Then, I made a show of rummaging through my school bag. Where's my handkerchief? Did I leave it at their house? I trudged along, adjusting my backpack as I headed towards the dormitory in the tube-shaped apartment building. A walk that should have taken 10 minutes ended up taking me nearly 20. By a little past 9 on a normal night, most people would already be fast asleep, but tonight was different. The hallway was packed with a dense, multi-layered crowd. Within the throng, some were shouting loudly, while others were jeering and egging them on. What on earth is going on here? I grabbed a woman who was standing at the back, craning her neck to get a better view, and asked her. The woman turned and saw it was me, her face instantly changing color. Oh, Shaolin, well, you should head back now. It's nothing, really. The more she insisted, the more her flustered expression betrayed her true feelings. I hesitated for a moment, then pushed my way through the crowd. In the dorm room, Chunkai had Shirharan pinned beneath him, his fist rising and falling as he pummeled the other man. 2 or 3 other young men stood around them, occasionally kicking Shirharan. Minyaya tried to pull one away, then another, but couldn't stop them. Frantic, she stamped her feet and yelled, get out, all of you. Chunkai, if you lay another hand on him, I'll divorce you. What are you all doing? A trembling voice escaped my throat. My heart was practically in my throat. It wasn't fear, nor was it confusion, it was pure, unadulterated excitement welling up from the very core of my being. The rumpled sheets, the disheveled clothes, the faint, musky scent hanging in the stifling air, it all screamed to anyone who entered exactly what had just transpired in this dorm room. I clapped a hand over my mouth, finally unable to hold back. I pushed through the crowd and doubled over against the wall, retching. Word of the incident reached the Forestry Bureau in no time. The head of the unit's security department and the local police officers arrived at the scene almost simultaneously. Some nosy neighbor must have called the police. With the ongoing crackdown, this kind of brawl stemming from an extramarital affair is a serious matter, not to be taken lightly. Looks like both Minyaya and Shirharan have made a lot of enemies over this housing allocation. The police handcuffed Chunkai for assault, along with Shirharan and Minyaya, who were caught having an inappropriate relationship right in the dormitory. Shaolin, should we get you home first? The head of the security department looked at me sympathetically and pulled me out of the crowd of onlookers. Flashes of lightning lit up the sky intermittently. It looked like a heavy downpour was on its way. As she stepped out of the tenement building, a thunderbolt struck a nearby tree. The branch snapped off instantly, crashing to the ground right in front of the dazed Minyaya. Minyaya let out a sharp scream. Yaya, Shirharan cried out, beating even Chunkai, her proper husband, to the call. The head of security looked at Shirharan, then at Chunkai, then at me, his expression a picture of speechless complexity. The rain came down in torrents. The police took Shirharan and the other 2 away, and the security chief personally escorted me back to my dormitory. After a quick wash, I lay in bed listening to the heavy rain lashing against the window. I couldn't help it. A faint smile tugged at the corner of my mouth. As the saying goes, even a timid man can turn into a tiger. It was no surprise to me that Chunkai, after witnessing the disgraceful affair between Shirharan and Minyaya, finally snapped. The usually mild-mannered guy gave the man who cuckolded him a thorough beating. As for why Shirharan and Minyaya couldn't control themselves and ended up carrying on right there in the dorm room, I turned to look at the now empty drawer. That was where a small packet of ginseng slices had indeed been kept. My aunt had given them to me to help build up my strength. Yesterday morning, I swapped the ginseng out for some sliced deer penis, just as I thought. It was right there in that bowl of chicken soup. Those 2, who never could hold their liquor well, had been eyeing each other for ages. The 2 who drank the deer penis soup, with me and Chunkai out of the way, there was no way they could keep their hands off each other. Shirharan, Minyaya, you 2 are about to make a name for yourselves in the system. Content and satisfied, I drifted into a deep sleep. I woke up early. The rain had lightened, but it hadn't stopped. I was in a very good mood, because in just 2 days, I'll be on my way home, humming a tune. I tied my long hair up with a handkerchief and headed to work. When I got to the office, many of my colleagues were sneaking glances at me. I calmly looked back. Those who couldn't avoid my gaze greeted me with somewhat awkward smiles. Director Chin called me into his office and asked me what exactly happened last night. I lowered my head and refused to speak. I've always thought of Shasher as a capable, driven, and excellent comrade. How could he be so foolish, Shaolin? Is there perhaps some misunderstanding here? Director, I don't know anything about it. Looking up at the director, whose face was etched with disappointment, I said quietly, all I know is that Shirharan and Min Yaya were taken away by the police yesterday for engaging in an improper relationship. With the current crackdown in full swing, this is likely to be made public. Director Chin, you should be prepared. Director Chin let out a sigh. I understood what he meant. Shirharan had become a junior official at the Forestry Bureau at a young age, which had everything to do with his family background. His father was once a comrade-in-arms of Director Chin. Director Chin must have called me here with the idea of sending me to the police station to smooth things over. But why on earth should I? What I want is for Shirharan to be utterly ruined, as it turned out. When forced to choose between his career and his friendship, Director Chin chose the former. Director Chin acted swiftly. The very next afternoon, he sent someone to the police station to bring Shirharan and the other two back. Upon his return, Shirharan was met with the news that his leadership position had been stripped from him entirely. He panicked. He went to see Director Chin first, but Director Chin refused to meet with him. He then went to see the party committee secretary and the trade union chairman in turn, but neither would see him. Shirharan wandered around the workplace like a headless fly, receiving nothing but scornful looks from his colleagues. Finally, Shirharan found his way to my office. Ching, please, let me explain. He stubbornly held on to my arm. His usually neat and tidy hair was now a complete mess, and the confident air he always carried was gone, replaced by a face full of panic. He clung to me as if I were his last lifeline. Nothing happened between me and Yaya, you have to believe me. I shot him a glare and shoved him away with force. Shirharan, you make me sick. My eyes were red and brimming. You've been lying to me all this time. The ginseng slices my aunt gave me to build up my health. You said Min Yaya was frail too, so you just took them and gave them to her. The apartment the bureau allocated for us. You said she'd just gotten married and it was inconvenient living in the dormitory, so you gave that to her too. Shirharan. You claim that you and Min Yaya have been close classmates since childhood, that you're friends, but just ask everyone, what kind of friend acts like this? My tears began to fall, pattering down. I actually wanted to believe you were just a genuinely good person, but now I see. I'm the fool. I was blind not to have realized you're this kind of scum. That's not how it is. Seeing several colleagues in the office looking at him with contempt, Shirharan grew frantic. He tried to move closer to me again, but several colleagues stepped in and held him back. A male colleague in his 40s, noticing his agitated state, grabbed his arm and tried to reason with him. Shaolin is too worked up right now. She won't listen to a word you say. You should head back and give her some space to cool down. Seeing him hesitate, the colleague practically shoved him out of the office. After work, I went back to my dorm, just as I expected. Shirharan was already waiting for me at the door. The rain hadn't let up, and he wasn't using an umbrella, so he was completely drenched. When he saw me, Shirharan strode over. Ching. I ignored him. Ching, you have to believe me. Shirharan grabbed my hand, explaining urgently, it's all a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. I laughed, shook off his hand, and looked at him mockingly. Do you take me for a fool? Shirharan was stunned for a moment, then to my surprise, he actually started crying, tears streaming down his face. He grabbed his hair in frustration. It was all Min Yaya. She seduced me. I was drunk and mistook her for you. With a sharp crack, I mustered all my strength and left a clear, 5-fingered handprint on his face. Shirharan, who the hell do you think you're insulting? Get out. No, Ching. I'm begging you. You're the only one who can help me now. Go talk to Director Chin. Tell him you were there too. That Kai was drunk and started the whole thing. I let out a bitter, mirthless laugh. Is there anyone in this world more shameless than you? I stared coldly at Shirharan, unable to comprehend how I could have been so blind in my past life, loving him with such unwavering devotion. Ching, I'm begging you. Shirharan paid no mind to my scornful taunts, his eyes red-rimmed as he stared at me. For the sake of what we had, please help me. Impossible, just leave. I don't want to see you. Lin Shui Qing. Min Yaya darted out from nowhere. Compared to Shirharan, she was in better shape. At the very least, her hair was neatly combed. It's just that her right cheek was badly swollen. It looked like she had been hit. Standing next to Shirharan, she glared at me fiercely. You planned all of this, didn't you? I raised an eyebrow. How ridiculous, I scoffed. As if I could control the two of you and make you fall into bed together. The dormitory I lived in was a single-story house, and a crowd had already gathered to watch from the moment I returned. Upon hearing this, everyone burst into laughter. Even someone as shameless as Minyaya couldn't withstand being mocked by so many people. Her eyes reddened, she stiffened her neck, raising her head high and jutting out her chin, as if that posture could grant her boundless courage. So what if I slept with Shirharan? The moment the words left her mouth, Shirharan's expression shifted dramatically. Unable to contain himself, he shoved Minyaya away and roared at her. What nonsense are you spouting? You're the one who seduced me. Minyaya's tears instantly began to fall. Sure too, how dare you say you don't have any feelings for me? If you didn't want to be with me, how could you just give me the apartment like that? To Shirharan, those words were a fatal blow. Exactly. Who would just give away an apartment they'd worked so hard to get? Unless he was up to no good from the start, the bureau imposed an even harsher penalty on Minyaya. She was fired outright. Junkai also filed for divorce from her. Shirharan was her only lifeline. She had nothing else. With nothing left to lose, Minyaya simply plopped down on the damp ground, slapping her thighs as she began to wail. Shirharan, don't play the innocent. It was you who got into university and decided I wasn't good enough for you anymore, so you kicked me to the curb. And it was you who started pursuing me again after you were assigned to the bureau and ran into me. Now, because of you, my reputation is ruined and I've lost my job. You have to take responsibility for me. And you, Lin Shuiqing. Minyaya wiped the rain from her face, glaring at me viciously. You made me a laughingstock. You're going to pay for this. You're insane. I walked into the dormitory and picked up the travel bag I had packed earlier. When I came back out, Shirharan's eyes widened in shock. Ching, where are you going? He tried to grab me, but Minyaya clung to his leg, holding him in place. Ching, where are you going? Shirharan cried out in a panic. We're about to get married, you can't leave. I threw the marriage application in his face. Who wants to marry you? Did you think I wouldn't find out about your little affair? I'd rather stay single my whole life than be with you. Shirharan stared blankly at the marriage application lying in the muddy water, his heart utterly broken. Ching. I strode away through the mud and never looked back. The train departed in the evening. After 4 days on the rails, I transferred to a long-distance bus, and finally hailed a horse-drawn carriage at the station, finally returning to the hometown I had longed for day and night, since I had telegraphed ahead about my job transfer. My parents weren't too surprised to see me suddenly show up at home. Mom's eyes were red and swollen. It was clear she had been worrying about me. Since you've already made it out there, why come back? How can the conditions here compare to those in the big city? I hugged my mother's thin frame. Mom, you and Dad had the chance to return to the city back then too. Why did you choose to stay? Mother remained silent. I know what you aspire to, though neither Mom nor Dad went to university. They were among the first educated youth to arrive here. This place is a world of swirling yellow sand, parched in every season. The temperature swings wildly between day and night. When the sandstorms rage, the wind whips against your face like a knife. Like many others here, my parents harbored a dream etched deep in their bones. They were determined to transform the desert into an oasis with their own hands, to make trees, grass, and flowers flourish across the sands, or at the very least, to stop this shifting desert from expanding any further. I said to my parents with solemn conviction, this is my aspiration too. Mom, Dad, let's work hard together. I believe that if we can't do it in 1 year, or even 2, we will surely achieve it over the decades. My parents' eyes welled up with tears. In that moment, I knew they would no longer stand in the way of my return. Following the transfer arrangement, I began working at the local forestry department. Gone was the comfortable life of the big city. I became busier than ever. Here, even state officials must lead from the front, working on the front lines of desertification control. Together with my colleagues and the local villagers, we relied on our own 2 feet to walk, our shoulders to carry, and our hands to dig. We painstakingly laid grids in the desert, planting grass, trees, and medicinal herbs. One by one, we broke down the vast surrounding desert into manageable sections for cultivation. We built roads, brought electricity, and supplied water across the great desert. 1 year passed, then another. As the sun rose and the moon set, 40 years went by. On the vast periphery of the desert, we have successfully engineered a green, sand-blocking barrier. With the planting of the final desert rose, this protective belt was seamlessly completed. This monumental achievement astonished both domestic and international observers. Some have quipped that just as there was the ancient foolish old man who moved mountains, today we have people planting trees in the desert. The spirit of man prevailing over nature is a romantic ideal etched into the very soul of our people. By this time, I was already past the age of retirement. My face is covered in dust, my temples frosted with white. That young man who returned home full of passion is now old and weary, yet I have never once regretted it. As someone who gave up a comfortable life in the big city to return and devote my life to my hometown, my story has since spread far and wide. I returned to my grandmother's city to attend an awards ceremony. Standing on the stage, accepting the bouquet from the staff, my gaze fell upon one person in the audience, hunched over, with a full head of white hair. It was Shirharan. It seems he hasn't had an easy time of it these years, but what does that have to do with me? I gently inhaled the scent of the flowers in my arms, thinking that in a year or two, the fragrance of the desert roses I planted myself might spread far and wide. Story 2. If I could do it all over again, I wouldn't go back to save my boyfriend. When Zichuan was trapped in the burning apartment, I suffered extensive burns all over my body trying to rescue him. Moved, he told me he would love me forever, so we got married. In the 3rd year of our marriage, I died from a severe infection. With my last breath, I took one final look at Wen Zichuan, only to see him visibly let out a sigh of relief. A slender, delicate hand rested on his shoulder. Zichuan, you've sacrificed yourself for her for 3 years, marrying such a wretched woman. You've done more than enough, don't be sad anymore. When Zichuan took hold of that hand and sighed, ah, perhaps this was her fate. You've had a hard time these past 3 years. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself 2 days before the fire. This time, I chose to respect his fate and let him be with his first love. In the KTV private room, when Zichuan's friend was belting out love till death, everyone around was laughing and carrying on. The air conditioning in the private room was cranked up way too high, sending an involuntary shiver down my spine. I looked down at my hands, smooth and unblemished. All 10 fingers were there, with no hideous scars in sight. I quickly pulled out my phone and turned it on. May 18, 2022. 2 days before the fire, I reached up and touched my face. Thank goodness, I hadn't yet become someone I couldn't even bear to look at. Wen Zichuan, who had been busy tending to his ex-girlfriend when Chuyue beside him, finally noticed me. He frowned at me, leaned close to my ear, and warned, "What's wrong with you? Why are you crying when we're out having fun? It's not because of Xiaoya, is it? I already told you. Xiaoya sprained her wrist helping me carry something. That's the only reason I'm getting her water and fruit. Don't you dare give her a dirty look. Xiaoya is a sensitive girl. If you keep this up, she'll be too embarrassed to let me help her today." I looked up at Wen Zichuan, handsome and youthful. No wonder I fell for him back then. The man before me now bore none of the weariness that came after our marriage, his eyes holding only a blazing intensity. A pity that fervent emotion wasn't meant for me. I hadn't even spoken. But just one wrong expression from me, and Wen Zichuan was already worried when Chuyue might get hurt. How laughable that in my past life, love had blinded me so completely that I failed to see what was truly in his heart. 1. Seeing my silence, Wen Zichuan reached out impatiently to wipe my tears. Alright, enough of this, which one do you want to eat? I'll get it for you. Okay. His hand was rough, and I could feel a sharp, stinging pain on my skin. The sudden pain instantly dredged up all those agonizing memories, and I flinched back on pure reflex. When Zichuan's hand hung awkwardly in the air. Just then, when Chuyue sidled up, looking pitiful and vulnerable, "Sister Chuyue, are you upset because of me? What happened between me and brother Zichuan? It's all in the past. If it bothers you," she bit her lower lip, cast one last longing glance at Wen Zichuan, and a single tear rolled down her cheek. Then I suppose. Before she could finish, when Chuyue choked up, unable to continue, when Zichuan's heart ached for her, he pulled her into a gentle embrace and carefully wiped her tears, a stark contrast to the rough way he'd just wiped mine. "Don't talk nonsense. There's nothing improper between us. What's wrong with being open and honest? There's no need to hide anything." Then, when Zichuan turned and glared at me, his tone commanding, "Bai Chuyue, apologize to Xiaoya." "Yes, my name is Bai Chuyue. It's similar to Wen Chuyue's name, and not just that, even our appearances bear a certain resemblance." The memory of Wen Chuyue and Wen Zichuan locked in a passionate embrace right before my death in my past life makes me wonder, during our rare moments of intimacy, was he actually calling out Chuyue for her? Was I just a stand-in for Wen Chuyue all along? The thought alone turns my stomach. My involuntary retch made Wen Zichuan's face darken instantly. "Bai Chuyue, what is the meaning of this?" When Chuyue's expression soured further, she gave a feeble push against the arm Wen Zichuan had wrapped around her, which only made him hold her tighter. A blush crept onto her cheeks, but her eyes held an unmistakable glint of triumph. "Sister Chuyue, please don't be like this. Zichuan-ji and I, there's really nothing between us." Wen Chuyue, Wen Zichuan. and I were all in the same graduating class. However, she started school a year early, so she's a year younger than us, but there were other classmates 2 or 3 years younger than us, and I never saw them going around calling everyone big brother or big sister. Swallowing down the disgust in my throat, I said coldly, "Don't go claiming family ties where there are none, and whether there's anything between the two of you, you know the truth. There's no need to put on an act for my benefit." Hearing my words, Wen Chuyue's eyes immediately welled up with tears. She pushed at Wen Zichuan's arm again. "You should keep your distance. I don't want people gossiping about me behind my back." Wen Zichuan's brows furrowed so deeply they formed a crease like the character for River. He kept his arm firmly around Wen Chuyue, holding her protectively against him as if he were her boyfriend. He looked at me with an icy expression. "Bai Chuyue, do you have to be this unreasonable today? Xiaoya has been making concessions for you over and over again, trying to be considerate of your feelings, and you're still deliberately targeting her. Don't you know how important a girl's reputation is? What exactly are you trying to say with that? Or do you think that just because we're dating, I can't have any friends of the opposite sex? Don't taint our relationship with your filthy thoughts." At that moment, Wen Zichuan's friends also stopped singing and looked at me with unfriendly eyes. "No offense, Bai Chuyue, but you're being a bit much. It's only because our Zichuan has such a good temper that he can put up with you. Look, Yu has been our friend for 7 years. We've known each other since high school. You can't just cut her out of our group because you're dating Zichuan now, can you? You knew all about their history before you got together with Zichuan. Throwing a fit about it now is just petty. Zichuan's friends had a problem with me from the very beginning. I only found out by accident, overhearing them complain about me to him. By that time, I was covered in burns and my face was disfigured. I didn't like going out or seeing people anymore. But when Zichuan ignored my wishes and invited his friends over to drink at our place, through the slightly ajar door, I could hear Wen Zichuan and his friends smoking and drinking. Someone mentioned Wen Chuyue, and then they started to badmouth and belittle me. "Zichuan, I really feel it's a waste for you. You're so outstanding, yet you ended up marrying a real nightmare of a wife. You and Xiaoya are such a perfect match. Even your surnames, Wen and Wen, sound so harmonious together. Honestly, I think Xiaoyu got divorced because of you. She's always asking us in private how you're doing these days. I can tell she still has feelings for you. You're not seriously planning to spend the rest of your life with Bai Chuyue, are you?" That face, waking up to it every morning would be a nightmare. 3 years had passed since the fire that left me burned. I'd endured countless painful reconstructive surgeries, yet my face remained a horrifying sight. With my left hand, missing 3 fingers, I touched the rough, jagged skin of my face and waited quietly for Wen Zichuan's reply. Wen Zichuan fell silent for a long while. The living room was unnervingly quiet. I could even hear the soft tap of him flicking cigarette ash. Finally, he let out a sigh. "After all, she saved my life." Wen Zichuan's friend immediately retorted, "But you don't have to repay her with your entire life, do you? Just give her money for skin grafts and cosmetic surgery. There's no need to sacrifice your whole future. 2. Every time I see the way Xiaoya looks at you, I feel you're making a huge mistake. It's such a shame about Xiaoya. You'll never find another woman who loves you like she does. Didn't you start dating Bai Chuyue in the first place because she looked like Xiaoya?" Hearing that, my breath hitched and my heart wrenched in a sharp pang. Was I just Wen Chuyue's replacement? Her face is burned like that now. There's not a trace of Xiaoya left in her. The only similarity is that their names sound a bit alike, I suppose. I never expected that after Xiaoya got a boyfriend, Zichuan would turn around and bring back a Xiaoya too. 0. It really threw me for a loop. What an insult to Xiaoya. She's not even worthy of being called 2. 0. She doesn't hold a candle to Xiaoya. When Zichuan's friends dissected me from head to toe right in front of him, but he acted like he didn't hear a thing, just silently smoking his cigarette. I felt my heart shatter into pieces. Just when I thought the pain couldn't get any worse, I heard a truth that shattered me completely. "All right. That's enough, don't go too far." Bai Chuyue did save Zichuan. After all, if Xiaoya hadn't gotten drunk and gone to Zichuan's apartment, starting that fire, Bai Chuyue wouldn't have gotten burned so badly trying to save him. Are you blaming Xiaoya for this? That's not what I'm saying, but you have to admit. If Xiaoya hadn't gotten drunk, threatened Zichuan with a bottle and a lighter to get back together with him on the spot, the apartment never would have caught fire. Enough. When Zichuan's impatient voice cut in, "What's the point of rehashing this now? Come on, let's drink. Tonight, we don't leave until we're wasted." A chill ran straight through me, freezing me to the core. So, my 3 years of hellish existence, this bone-deep, very real agony. Was it all just because of these 2 lovebirds and their little reconciliation game? From the drunken, unfiltered chatter that followed, I pieced together the truth of the matter. after dating for a year, Wen Shuiwei dumped Wen Zichuan for a senior who had been pursuing her all along. Humiliated by the rejection, Wen Zichuan immediately set his sights on me. I was moved by the effort he put into wooing me, so I agreed to be with him. The fact that Wen Zichuan was now available to date others reignited Wen Shuiwei's desire to conquer him. She immediately broke up with her senior and turned her attention back to Wen Zichuan, trying to reel him in. Wen Zichuan was afraid that if he gave in to Wen Shuiwei, she would just abandon him again, so he used me as a pawn to keep her hooked, ensuring her heart and mind remained fixated on him. Furious that Wen Zichuan refused to break up with me, Wen Shuiwei got drunk and went to confront him on May 20th. She threatened him with a liquor bottle and a lighter, saying if he wouldn't get back together with her, she'd set the bottle on fire right in front of him. To my surprise, after Wen Zichuan knocked it over in a panic, the lighter suddenly exploded and actually ignited the alcohol that had spilled all over the floor. The two of them, locked in an embrace, didn't notice at first. It wasn't until the fire was out of control that they frantically called 119 to put it out. Coincidentally, I arrived at Wen Zichuan's place just then with a carefully prepared 520 gift. Upon discovering his apartment was on fire, I first called the fire department, then draped a soaked blanket over myself, grabbed a fire extinguisher, and rushed in to save him. When I found Wen Zichuan, he and Wen Shuiwei had already escaped to the staircase on the second floor. 3. I didn't have time to ask Wen Shuiwei why she was there. I was too busy using the fire extinguisher to clear a path for them. Wen Zichuan, however, took the extinguisher from me, saying he would lead the way, with Wen Shuiwei following him. Since I had the blanket, I was to bring up the rear and seal off the path behind us, but when we reached the lobby on the first floor, part of the ceiling suddenly gave way and collapsed, bringing the fire from the second floor crashing down with it. Wen Zichuan, at the front, was in the most danger of being hit. Wen Shuiwei screamed and dodged to the side, leaving only Wen Zichuan, who hadn't noticed what was happening, still moving forward. So, ignoring the danger to myself, I rushed forward and pushed him out of the way, only to be struck myself. When I woke up, I was already in the hospital. Wen Zichuan was sitting by my bedside, his eyes red, declaring with deep emotion that he loved me and would take care of me for the rest of my life. After being discharged, we got married. It was just a legal registration, no ceremony, because I didn't want to see anyone. Wen Zichuan agreed without a moment's hesitation. For 3 years after the wedding, I never once stepped outside our home, except to go to the hospital for treatment. Wen Zichuan's attitude towards me shifted from initial patience to later using business dinners and work trips as excuses to stay out all night. That fire not only left me with severe burns all over my body, but also cost me my right hand. My remaining hand has only 2 fingers left. Without help from others, I struggled to perform tasks most people find simple, like bathing or cooking for myself. Wen Zichuan had originally hired a housekeeper to care for me. However, when Wen Shuiwei came to visit and was frightened by my appearance, he found an excuse to let the housekeeper go. At the time, he claimed the housekeeper had been rude to Wen Shuiwei. He said he was worried that someone so two-faced would also neglect my care behind his back, which is why he dismissed her. He promised to find me a more suitable caregiver, but I died waiting, and he never sent anyone to look after me. Looking back, I think Wen Shuiwei was so horrified by my appearance that he fired the housekeeper on purpose, just to get back at me. If someone had been there to care for me, perhaps I wouldn't have died from that severe infection. I hadn't seen Wen Zichuan for the 6 months before I died. It wasn't until I mustered my last bit of strength to call 120 that he finally came to the hospital, summoned by their notification, to see me for the last time. Looking at me lying on the hospital bed, on the brink of death, Wen Zichuan let out a very obvious sigh of relief. You saved me, and I married you. We're even now. Shuiwei, you drew a short straw in this life. I hope you get a better hand in the next. When Shuiwei had come to the hospital with him, she put her arm around Wen Zichuan's shoulder, looking at him with heartache. Zichuan, you've sacrificed 3 years of your life for her, marrying that wretched woman. You've done more than enough. Don't be sad anymore. Because of her, we had to keep our relationship a secret for 3 years. Anyone who didn't know the whole story probably thought I was the other woman. When Shuiwei is something else. We all got married the same year, and she only just got divorced last year. Yet she's been having a secret affair with Wen Zichuan for 3 years. They're both seasoned scumbags. Wen Zichuan reached out and pulled Wen Shuiwei into an embrace, his eyes full of pity. You've suffered, he said. I'll make it up to you from now on. I'm not even dead yet, and here they are, right by my bedside, all over each other and locking lips. I was so furious I could have grabbed a knife and hacked them to pieces. My life has been cursed. And the worst part of it all was meeting those two despicable people. In the end, I feel like I was literally driven to my grave by the two of them. At that thought, the hatred in my eyes burned even fiercer. I stood up directly, grabbed the wine glass beside me, and splashed its contents onto Wen Zichuan's face. Wen Zichuan, are you a corpse? Your friends are important, so your girlfriend can just be casually accused and insulted. Is that it? I think anyone who becomes your girlfriend would have the worst luck in the world. We're through. I want the 500,000 yuan you borrowed from me paid back right now. Last month, when Zichuan said he wanted to start a business and borrowed the 500,000 yuan I had saved up from writing novels since high school, he promised that if his venture succeeded, he would give me a share of the equity. But in my past life, when he actually did succeed, he never mentioned it again. Even my later medical and living expenses came from the ongoing royalties of my novels. That money wasn't even enough to hire a caretaker for me. Hearing me bring up the money, Wen Zichuan's face darkened instantly, even though he had seemed indifferent about the breakup just moments before. Bai Chuyue, he said, my patience has its limits. When Chuyue chimed in accusingly, Bai Chuyue, don't you know that using money to control a man is the stupidest thing you can do? Zichuan is your boyfriend, you've completely humiliated him in front of all these people, you've gone too far. When Zichuan's friend joined in to criticize me, Bai Chuyue, do you have a heart? Zichuan has been so good to you, and you humiliate him in public like that. Exactly, I'm starting to doubt if you ever really loved Zichuan. 4. I cut them off directly. Been good to me. Name one example. An eerie silence fell over the private room. I let out a cold laugh. Can't think of any. Do you even feel a shred of guilt when you claim he loves me? Since you're all so eager to defend Wen Zichuan, I'm sure you'd be just as happy to cough up the 500,000 to pay me back for him. At the mention of money, the others fell even more silent. Only Wen Chuyue's eyes were filled with venomous resentment as she glared at me, who in a relationship keeps harping on about money. Bai Chuyue, you gave Zichuan that loan willingly. The money's already been invested in the company. Demanding it back now is just you being difficult on purpose, isn't it? When Zichuan let out a sigh as well. I know you were wrong today, let me apologize on everyone's behalf. Okay, they were just speaking out of turn in the heat of the moment. When Zichuan stood up and took my hand, guiding me back to the sofa. Don't you love pistachios? Sit tight, and I'll shell some for you. Alright, I didn't resist and obediently sat down. As I ate the pistachios he fed me, I shot a smug glance at Wen Chuyue. A sudden thought struck me. If I broke up with Wen Zichuan right now, would the fire still happen the day after tomorrow? I need to make sure that fire happens as planned. I want Wen Zichuan to suffer the same agony I endured in my past life. So, not only can I not break up with Wen Zichuan now, I also have to provoke Wen Chuyue into going to his apartment again. Wen Chuyue's face instantly darkened. She stood up, wiped her tears, and ran off. Wen Zichuan immediately stood up to chase after her. I cleared my throat and gave him a cold stare. And just where do you think you're going? Wen Zichuan anxiously stared at the doorway, yet he didn't dare take another step forward. Xiaoya is so sensitive. I'm afraid something might happen to her. I shrugged indifferently. Fine, go after her then. But before you step out that door, pay me back the money. Once we're settled and broken up, you can chase after whoever you want. Money, 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 money. When Zichuan exploded, is that all you ever think about? How did I not see before that you were such a gold digger? When Zichuan looked at me with utter disappointment, you've changed. You were never this materialistic before. Now, every other word out of your mouth is about money. I absolutely refuse to accept Wen Zichuan's manipulative tactics. Have you not changed at all? The man who kept saying he wanted to build his own business now wants to be a kept man. When you were pursuing me, you said you'd only ever love me and keep your distance from other women. And what happened? I've never seen a boyfriend who abandons his own girlfriend to take care of some girl brother. When I called Wen Zichuan a kept man, his face was terrifyingly dark. But when I brought up him taking care of Wen Chuyue again at the end, his anger was instantly replaced by smugness. He thought I was just throwing a jealous tantrum. When Zichuan looked at me with utter exasperation. Chuyue, how many times do I have to explain this for you to understand? The bond between Xiaoya and me is purely brotherly and sisterly. Can you please stop being so irrationally jealous? I can't break up with Wen Zichuan just yet, so I took the out he offered. I muttered, fine, I'll believe you one more time. A smug look grew even more pronounced in Wen Zichuan's eyes. Let me take you back to campus first. We're seniors now. With just a month left until graduation, I had planned to use that 500,000 yuan after graduating to buy an apartment, deciding on the location based on where I end up working. That's why I'm still living in the dorm for now. After we left the private room, through the crack in the door that wasn't shut tight, I heard the previously silent room erupt in criticism against me again. TSK, she was just talking all high and mighty. But she fell right in line as soon as Zichuan said a word, didn't she? With a personality like hers, she's bound to get dumped sooner or later. Xiaoyu is so gentle and sweet, it's impossible not to adore her. Absolutely spineless. I bet every bone in their body is made of jelly. They know I can hear them. They're saying it on purpose. For my benefit, I could hear it, and of course, Wen Zichuan beside me could too, but he acted as if he hadn't heard a thing. Just kept walking straight ahead. After dropping me off at the dorm, Wen Zichuan turned and left without a second thought, probably in a hurry to find Wen Chuyue. In the middle of the night, my phone received a photo from Wen Chuyue. It showed Wen Zichuan lying shirtless on a hotel bed. Wen Chuyue quickly deleted it. Of course, she wouldn't let a stain like that tarnish her carefully crafted image of an innocent, harmless little flower. 5. But I couldn't care less about any of it, after all. She doesn't have many days left to strut around. To provoke her, on the 19th, I deliberately clung to Wen Zichuan, ordering him around to run errands and even feed me, then shot a triumphant, challenging look at Wen Chuyue, who was trailing behind us the whole time. Even though Wen Zichuan could tell I was doing it on purpose, he was all too happy to watch two women vie for his attention, especially since my antics only made Wen Chuyue cling to him more desperately. He became utterly compliant with my every whim. I wrapped my arms around Wen Zichuan's and cooed, "Zichuan, tomorrow is May 20th. How about we spend it at your place? You prepare a romantic candlelit dinner for just the two of us, and I'll have a big surprise for you." With that, I gave Wen Zichuan a playful wink. Wen Chuyue, sitting beside me, looked positively livid. She practically hissed the words through gritted teeth. How shameless. I looked up at her, feigning confusion. "What did you say?" Wen Chuyue forced a smile. "I said you two seem very close." I smiled, accepting her compliment. "You too, Xiaoya. You shouldn't give up on love just because you met one scumbag. It's time you found yourself a boyfriend." As soon as I said that, Wen Zichuan was the first to object. "Xiaoyu is still young, there's no rush. Don't go giving any harebrained ideas." Seeing Wen Zichuan speak up for her, Wen Chuyue smiled sweetly. I watched their little exchange coldly, just hoping they'd still be able to smile like that after tomorrow night. For the entire day on May 20th, I stuck to Wen Zichuan like glue. I could tell Wen Zichuan was getting more and more anxious as evening approached, probably trying to come up with an excuse to get rid of me, so I set an alarm. Pretended I had something to do, and left on my own. I hid not far from Wen Zichuan's apartment, and finally felt relieved when I saw Wen Chuyue go inside with a bottle of wine. This incident wouldn't change just because I was reborn. Wen Zichuan, who was starting his own business, rented an apartment in a 3-story building over 30 years old, located far out in the suburbs. However, it was very close to the factory space he intended to lease, since the rent was cheap. Wen Zichuan went ahead and rented out the entire building, all 6 units, to use as dormitories for his employees. When the fire broke out, all his employees were working overtime at the factory and hadn't returned yet. So, in that life, I was the only victim of that fire. I didn't see anyone else enter the apartment building until the fire erupted in Wen Zichuan's room. I finally let out a sigh of relief. I wanted Wen Zichuan to return to the fate he was meant to follow. But I never intended for anyone else to suffer because of it. This time, without my help, Wen Zichuan was rushed to the hospital with severe burns all over his body. Just like in my previous life, he lost his right hand and 3 fingers from his left hand. Wen Zichuan's friend stormed over to confront me, pointing a finger in my face and yelling, "Bai Chuyue, have you no conscience? Zichuan is lying in the hospital in that state, and you can't even be bothered to visit him. Bai Chuyue, I can't believe you're this kind of person. You clung to Zichuan when he was fine, but now that he's hurt, you're nowhere to be found." I scoffed. "So now that when Zichuan is injured, you remember me? Weren't you all constantly saying I wasn't good enough for him? Why don't you go find Wen Chuyue? Didn't you all say she and Wen Zichuan were a match made in heaven? What's the matter, now that Wen Zichuan's face is scarred and he's disabled? Is the kind and innocent little Yaya going to abandon him? Our pure little Yaya always had time to follow us around every moment when Zichuan and I were together. Surely she hasn't suddenly become too busy since he got hurt." My words shut them up. They just muttered, "You're ruthless," before turning and walking away. I snorted coldly, ignored the classmates whispering about me, and left the scene as well. These fair-weather friends and spineless hypocrites actually tried to guilt-trip me. What a bunch of opportunistic scum. Don't be fooled by their righteous defense of Wen Zichuan now. The moment he truly falls from grace, they'll be the first to turn on him. Still, I went to the hospital, not to see Wen Zichuan, but to collect a debt. Wen Zichuan was swathed in bandages, his eyes vacant as he stared at the ceiling. When he saw me arrive, a spark finally lit in his eyes. Chuiwei, you're finally here. I've been waiting for you for so long. I had no patience for his weak, haltering nonsense. The familiar, acrid smell of medicine triggered phantom pains in my body, grating on my nerves. I cut him off sharply. You were waiting for me. What for? Shouldn't you be expecting Wen Chuiwei to take care of you? After all, you spent your 520 night with her. When Zichuan's eyes widened in shock, you saw that. Xiaoye came to get back together, but I didn't agree. You call making out with her on the windowsill not agreeing. I can't even listen to this. I was getting more and more irritated. Enough. Cut the crap. Give me back my 500,000, and we're square. Do whatever you want. When Zichuan looked hurt and pained, people told me you were a gold digger, only in it for the good times, but I didn't believe them. I never thought you'd be so eager to break up the moment I got hurt. Stop, I said coldly, staring at him. Don't try that emotional blackmail on me. It won't work. Give me the money. When Zichuan let out a pained cry, and then his expression shifted. He looked down at himself in shock, then stared at me, utterly bewildered. By Chuiwei, where are your scars? How is your hand healed? Why am I the one lying in this hospital bed? When Zichuan had been reborn, too, I laughed, feeling the phantom pains in my body begin to fade. Why shouldn't it be you? You betrayed me. Meeting Wen Chuiwei in secret at that apartment. This is your fate. Wen Zichuan was incredulous. But, you pushed me away. 6. His eyes widened. You've been reborn too. I smirked. Did the fire fry your brain? What kind of nonsense are you spouting? Reborn. Don't you dare play dumb to get out of paying me back. Wen Zichuan didn't know it yet, but the real agony wasn't the pain of waking up in the hospital. It was the crushing disappointment after every failed treatment. The pitying stares from others, and the utter helplessness of being unable to perform even the simplest daily tasks. I hoped he would savor each and every one of these bitter experiences. When Zichuan still refused to believe I could be so heartless. I'm still in the hospital, and you're already asking for money. In our past life, after you were burned, I married you. I frowned. Did the fire fry your brain? What past life nonsense. If you don't pay me back, I'll call every single one of your friends and family and have them pool their money to settle your debt. I'll pay for my son. When Zichuan's parents, who had just arrived, shot me a look of utter disgust. How much? I'll pay it. I told you all along, a woman like this is rotten to the core. You wouldn't listen. You just had to get involved with her. I couldn't care less about what Wen Zichuan's parents think of me. They've hated me from the start. We're dead set against him marrying me. And after the wedding, they'd show up to yell at me whenever anything went slightly wrong for them. Right now, all I want is to get my money back. When Zichuan's mother transferred me 500,000, and I returned the IOU I had him write a couple of days ago. After leaving the hospital, I stopped paying any attention to anything related to Wen Zichuan, but there were always some classmates who would deliberately bring him up in my presence. That's how I found out that Wen Zichuan married Wen Chuiwei after he was discharged from the hospital. At the mention of this, someone in the crowd shot me a contemptuous look and loudly praised Wen Chuiwei's kindness, along with the sacred love between them. I couldn't care less about any of it. Once I get my diploma, I'll leave this city and have nothing more to do with them. They can think whatever they want. 6 months later, I suddenly saw news about Wen Zichuan and Wen Chuiwei again. Although Wen Chuiwei's face was pixelated, I recognized her instantly. Her clothes were splattered with large stains of blood. She screamed at the top of her lungs. He forced me to do it. He made me kill him. Every day he'd moan in pain, hit me, curse me, saying I was the cause of all his suffering. He even tried to set me on fire. He wanted to turn me into a monster like him. I had no choice. I had to kill him first. When Zichuan's mother was being held back, desperately trying to lunge at Wen Chuiwei, screaming, "Give me back my son, you poisonous woman, give me back my son." After Wen Chuiwei was imprisoned, netizens dug up more dirt. It turns out there was more to the story. Rumor has it Wen Chuiwei was having affairs with Wen Zichuan's friends. After they were discovered, they plotted to silence the witness, but were caught in the act by Wen Zichuan's parents who showed up unexpectedly. I stretched, looked out the window at the beautiful sunny weather, and started wondering if I should call some friends for a hot pot dinner to celebrate. It's so absurd it's laughable. Xia Yin was never as good looking as me even in her youth, and now she's aged horribly. Old man, you must be really desperate to go for that. I need to shut my mouth. I still remember when we got married, he said, let's not have a wedding banquet. My personal marriage isn't a big deal, no need to waste everyone's time and energy. Looking back now, he probably looked down on me. He must have thought marrying a money-grubbing woman like me was too shameful, something to be done on the sly. I had to touch him, to protect his honor. Einar has a gentle and serene nature. She was always my perfect match. If Zhao Min hadn't forced the issue, we would have been together long ago. Fortunately, it's still not too late. Xia Yin, I love you. In this life and forever. I will be your husband and yours alone. The elderly couple held each other's hands tightly, gazing into each other's wrinkled faces. On Lin Cheng's face was a tenderness I had never seen before. I suddenly felt so ridiculous. After we married, I called him husband, but he frowned and told me to just use his name, saying it was too mushy. I never heard him say I love you while he was alive. After his death, I heard him say it to another woman, finally, amidst everyone's blessings. He wrote in his neat, regular script, 60 years of forced separation. No love letter could ever capture this longing. 7. With a single sentence, he negated all my years of toil. For 60 years, not a single moment passed without him thinking of his first love. The soul has no tears, yet as I laughed, I suddenly felt my cheeks grow wet. Perfect. I'm such a blind, foolish thing. I wept with a shattered heart. Those 60 betrayed years are gone forever. My heart suddenly seized. And the pain sent me spiraling into unconsciousness. When I came to, I found myself back on the day we got our marriage certificate. I was only 23 that year. I came from a privileged background. My father worked in the transportation sector, and my mother, hailing from a family of scholars, was a renowned painter. Lin Qing came from a humble background, having made it into University A from a small county town. I had always admired the serene, unambitious air about him. It took me a year of pursuing him before he finally agreed to be with me. I took him to meet my parents, but they disapproved of our marriage. Lin Qing stood up and left on the spot. He told me not to contact him anymore, as he didn't want to be seen as a social climber. I knelt before my parents, pleading through tears, repeatedly assuring them that he was truly an ambitious and outstanding young man who would never rely on his family after marriage. The moment my parents relented, I rushed to find Lin Qing with the good news. He responded with cool indifference. Oh, you really didn't have to go to such lengths. It's not like I'm desperate to marry you. At the time, I was convinced he was angry, so I pulled out all the stops to try and cheer him up. He reluctantly agreed. All right then. He got married right after graduation. He tried to find a job, but he could never make it past the probation period before being let go. He had an inflated sense of self-importance. Coming from a prestigious university, he felt he was above menial tasks. He was also a busybody who couldn't stand to see his boss reprimand subordinates and would often butt in. His resume wasn't particularly impressive in City A. His parents claimed they wouldn't help us at all, but behind the scenes, they quietly pulled strings for him, hoping he would land a good job and that I, too, would have a better life. He managed to offend every single one of his parents' friends, in the end. Whether it was private companies or state-owned enterprises, none of the decent ones would take him. He couldn't find a job in City A at all. He was still at home complaining. Those officials are so full of themselves. Each and every one of them is a parasite on society. I would never stoop to their level. I'd rather live a simple, unremarkable life than compromise my principles. My heart went out to him. Why don't you try going back to school? Let me handle providing for the family. And so, living off my support, he went back to school to study. During his PhD, he nearly failed to graduate after a minor disagreement where he talked back to his supervisor. I dropped everything to apologize to the professor and even gave him several gifts. Unbeknownst to me, he went behind my back and reported the professor for accepting the gifts. The whole situation became incredibly awkward, and in the end, my father had to step in to resolve it. He frowned at me, clearly believing he was in the right and looking disappointed in me. What you're doing is just encouraging this kind of unethical behavior, he said. I've finally had enough. I couldn't hold back any longer. What have you ever contributed to this family since we got married? He shot up from his seat. All you ever think about is money, money, money. How did I end up marrying a woman like you? Our son was born, and you're never home to take care of him. You're out all day. God knows what you're doing. That's just who I am. Lin Qing. If you're so obsessed with status and chasing after power, you can go do it on your own. Looking back, I do regret it. I went too far, hurt his pride, and even had to swallow mine to apologize, to make it up to him. When he was up for promotion, I even swallowed my pride and begged my uncle for help. You could say his entire smooth sailing career was my doing. Without me, he never would have become that renowned professor. Of course he gets to play the aloof, virtuous one. All the family's financial burdens fell on my shoulders, and I was the one who had to handle all the unsavory backdoor dealings. I took the fall for him. Of course he never had to humble himself or compromise, because I bore all the indignities for him. But with me dead, he gets fame, fortune, a promotion, and a dead wife, the perfect chance to rekindle things with his first love. Just sign here. 8. I snapped back to reality. The clerk in front of me handed me a pen, gesturing for me to sign the marriage registration form. I turned my head slightly. Lin Cheng, sitting beside me, wore a detached expression. Not a trace of marital joy on his face. For 60 years of marriage, he remained just like that. Never once gracing me with a smile, I gently touched my own face. Gone were the wrinkles earned from a lifetime of toiling for him. My skin was now smooth and delicate. I had been utterly betrayed. I feel young again. Taking a deep breath, I threw the pen back on the table. Let's put the wedding on hold. I'm going back to prepare for the postgraduate entrance exam. For the first time, an emotion flickered across Lin Cheng's usually impassive face. He frowned. What's all this about? Those 3 simple words made me seem like the unreasonable one. Back then, the moment he pulled a long face, I would cave in and try to cheer him up. It happened so often that I started to believe I must be the one at fault, that I was the one who had wronged the ever-serene Professor Lin. Given this rare second chance at life, I'm done playing servant. I couldn't be bothered to argue. I just grabbed my bag and left. To my surprise, Lin Cheng strode after me, clearly agitated. Wait, Zhao Min. Let's get this straight. He grabbed my wrist, and a shudder ran through my entire body. Frankly, that touch of his made me sick to my stomach. I thought I made myself perfectly clear, I said, wrenching my hand free and wiping it on my trousers. He noticed my movement, his pupils contracting slightly. You're not marrying me anymore. I fought back the urge to curse. With so many people around, a scene would make the news. I told you I'm taking the grad school entrance exam, you understand? Right, I stared straight at him, his face stiffened. Oh, right, of course. A satisfied smile touched my lips as I turned and walked out of the Civil Affairs Bureau. Only when I stood bathed in the warm sunlight did I truly believe I had come back to life. Wasn't my 60-year marriage just a nauseating prison to me? I didn't leave him because I still had feelings for him. He tormented me for 60 years, and I will personally cast him into the abyss. My talk of taking the postgraduate entrance exam wasn't just an excuse. Having lived a past life, I came to deeply understand just how crucial it is for a woman to pursue her education. With my excellent grades and numerous awards from major competitions, getting a guaranteed postgraduate admission is absolutely no problem. But to marry him, I gave up my guaranteed graduate school placement, found a job early, and worked diligently to support our family. Only to be met with his talk of us going our separate ways. Such a sophisticated insult. You'd need a good education just to understand it. There's still over half a year until the postgraduate entrance exams. There's still time. My mother called to check in on me. Wasn't it you who insisted on marrying him? What's going on? Hearing her voice after so long brought a pang of sadness. I was such a foolish, lovesick girl, making my parents worry themselves sick. Mom, I want to further my education while I'm still young. It'll come in handy later. Thinking back to my past life, when I faced a crucial promotion opportunity, my performance was outstanding, but I was held back solely because of my bachelor's degree. Fills me with resentment. It really grinds my gears. 9. My parents were overjoyed. They immediately sent me money and told me to sign up for a postgraduate entrance exam prep course right away, so as not to fall behind. Even if I never worked a day in my life, my family's assets would be enough to support me for a lifetime. But Lin Cheng was in a tough spot. Without my financial support, he could barely afford to eat. There's no connection between us anymore. With his pride, he'd never be the one to call. I was desperate in my past life. In this one, I've learned to let things go. The more you indulge him, the more he acts up. Really starts to think he's something special. He doesn't ask, I don't tell. It was a perfect, mutual understanding. Barely a week had passed before he couldn't hold back any longer. He called me, his voice cold and clipped. That's about enough. Playing a little hard to get his cute, but know when to stop. I'm too busy. The grad school entrance exam is my priority. I replied offhandedly. He was silent for a long moment. We could study together. I could even help you. We've all graduated. He can't stay in the dorms, doesn't even have money for food, let alone rent a place. I almost laughed, but I seem to remember my GPA was higher than yours, so I don't think that's necessary. He seemed to be holding back. I don't have any money for food. How ironic. He never liked it when I brought up money, because I was always the one who solved our financial problems. Now it's his turn to worry about money. It's fine, money can't buy you a meal. I threw his own words back at him. You can always eat something that doesn't cost anything. Stung by my retort, he finally lost his temper. So your family's rich, big deal. Why do you always have to rub salt in the wound? I sighed. You've got 2 hands and 2 feet. Why not just go get a job? What a load of nonsense. If he could handle the grind of a regular job, he wouldn't be broke in the first place. Don't you dare think I can't manage without you, Zhao Min, he spat out before slamming down the phone. As it turned out, he couldn't manage at all. He ended up at a fast food joint run by a friend, who, as a favor to me, reluctantly gave him a job. A friend was venting to me the other day, Lin Qing, who works as a waiter, messed up a customer's drink order. The customer complained, and let's just say the language wasn't exactly polite, so he poured the entire drink over the customer's head. I had my friends send me the video, and I posted it online myself. The video went viral overnight, racking up over 10 million shares and earning him the new nickname Fast Food Frenzy King. My friend fired Lin Qing, but I thought that wasn't enough. Dock another month's pay, I said. Consider it as compensation to the shop. My friend chuckled. What's this? No sympathy for your precious boyfriend. That's making him work a whole month for free. If I let him walk away with that money, then I'm not Zhao Min. Lin Qing was flat broke and got kicked out. With his old job providing room and board, he was now completely homeless. He reached out to me again. Min, I tried getting a job, but it just didn't work out. Every single time he messed up at work, he'd call me that in that same sickeningly sweet way. I must have been out of my mind back then. The moment he spoke, my heart would soften, and I'd clean up his mess for him. It's fine, you're famous now. You can go into livestream sales. How is that not a form of success? Seeing that I not only ignored his bait but also mocked him, he said through gritted teeth, how could I ever have ended up with a woman like you? He can go be with whoever he wants. I can't be bothered to put up with that attitude of his anymore. Sure enough, he went running back to Xia Yin, who was always more his type. Xia Yin attended a second-tier university right across the street from ours. Just a block apart, but the gap in prestige was worlds apart. Lin Qing was the prodigy from the backwoods. For Xia Yin to make it out and get into college, she was definitely among the top of her peers. She was a year younger than Lin Qing. He went to great lengths to help her with her college entrance exams. I was so naive. I actually bought their story of being just friends. Talk about a small world. I ran into Xia Yin and Lin Qing when I went back to campus to handle some business. She was bringing him lunch. I decided to just walk past them, figuring out of sight, out of mind. Xia Yin stopped me. Come on, Min, isn't this enough? Brother Lin has been through a lot lately. I gave her a slow, deliberate look. Has playing the other woman addled your brain? How dare you try to guilt-trip the wronged party? 10. Her eyes welled up with tears upon hearing that. How could you say such a thing? Lin Qing stepped in front of her protectively. If you have a problem, take it up with me. You're just being paranoid. There's nothing between us. I'm tired of saying it. I didn't want to curse, but he walked right into it. What the hell are you talking about? Strong guy, stop playing the damn saint. If I hadn't seen their sweet, late-life romance with my own eyes after death, Lin Qing would have fooled me again this time. The sight of them just irritates me. They've turned my perfectly good life into a complete joke. Thank goodness I was given a second chance and wasn't just sent straight to the underworld. Otherwise, my best friends would have laughed themselves silly, and my parents would have given me an earful. Dead, I left without a second glance, completely oblivious to the venomous look Xia Yin shot my way. She was talented in both singing and dancing, with an innocent, fresh-faced beauty that made her the undisputed campus queen, after suffering such a monumental injustice at my hands. There was no way she was just going to let it slide. She penned a lengthy, 1,000-word post on her social media. My name was never mentioned, yet every single line was unmistakably about me. A detailed account of how I abused my power and bullied an innocent girl from a small town. All her lackeys helped repost it, including Lin Qing. Given how much he loves to champion justice, of course he would help his favorite woman. Lin Qing is a hot topic himself, so the incident was posted online again. Netizens are all saying, we wronged the fast food delivery guy. Turns out he was forced into it by his materialistic girlfriend, a talented man reduced to being a waiter. That crazy woman is despicable, lashing out at everyone and slandering an innocent, pure-hearted girl. This has even escalated into discrimination, with students from top-ranked schools looking down on those from ordinary ones. Word got back to the school and my parents. I was called in for a talk, and my mother rushed over to accompany me. How did things get to this point? After the talk, my mother held my hand, her face full of concern. A short, unsubstantiated essay wouldn't get me formally punished by the school, but it could damage my reputation and hinder my plans for graduate school or the civil service exam. Don't worry, the truth will out, and there's no need to get caught in a spiral of self-justification. You and Dad should stay out of it for now. I'll speak up if I need to. Xia Yin is a minor influencer who occasionally goes live, making money from the virtual gifts her viewers send. She deliberately steered the situation, leading to my personal information being leaked. My phone was flooded with calls, and my social media was bombarded with abusive private messages. After getting back, I pulled out my SIM card and deactivated all my social media accounts. I got a new phone number and created a bunch of alternate accounts. I took a close look at Xiaoyin's account. She often shows off gifts from her fans, so I took screenshots for my records. My best friend told me she has Xiaoyin's WeChat. I noticed some of the items she posted in her social media feed look suspiciously like the ones that mysteriously went missing from me. There was a bracelet, some earrings, and even the birthday gift Lin Qing gave me last year. Last year, he gave me a necklace. It wasn't expensive, but he had saved up to buy it, which really touched me. I've worn it every single day since. One day, he came to my place and then just vanished. I found the dorm conditions poor, so I lived off campus. I'd occasionally invite Lin Qing over to my place to hang out and cook for him, but he was always reluctant. It's improper for an unmarried couple to visit each other's homes, he'd say. I mean, it's not like we're living in the Qing dynasty, we're in a normal relationship. So what's the big deal? After thinking about it for a long time, I realized that every time Lin Qing came over, some of my little pieces of jewelry would go missing. I'm not big on tidying up, so my room is always a bit of a mess. If something gets lost, it gets lost. It's not like they were worth much anyway. 11. But the fact that my boyfriend would steal my things to give to someone else, that's just disgusting. You don't need to give gifts for the holidays, you don't lack for anything. And these occasions are just consumer traps, he says that. But he never turns down anything I give him. The only things he ever skimps on are my presents. Last year he actually bought me something. I thought he'd had a change of heart. I never realized he was just waiting to take it back. I can't believe I was so blind at such a young age. It was so obvious, yet in my past life, I never noticed a thing. I guess I was just overconfident. Just as I was beating my chest in frustration over my own stupidity, there was a knock at the door. Through the video doorbell, I saw Lin Qing standing outside, holding a whole bunch of stuff. The intercom works just fine. I'm not opening the door. Well, look who it is. You never came when I invited you. He kept looking around, as nervous as someone sneaking into a shady massage parlor, terrified of being spotted. I had no idea that being with me was such a burden for him. Open the door first. I was speechless. Just put it down and leave. Min, I came to see how you're doing. He swallowed his temper and condescended to be here. This whole slap then give a sweet date routine wasn't even his invention. How could he be so sure I'd fall for it? He's alive. You can rest easy. He couldn't keep up the act for more than 3 sentences. Enough. You've already faced consequences for insulting Enin without cause. I'll make sure Enin clears her name. Qing, don't let it happen again. After all, we're still a couple. You should forget about grad school and just marry me already, so we can settle down sooner. A woman should learn to. What's the point of a history? You need a home. I'll move in tomorrow. Let's try living together first. What a grand blessing. I couldn't help but laugh. How can you be so shameless? Do you think netizens will just believe whatever you two say? What people want is proof. You can flap your little mouth all you want, but for all your smooth talking, you're still just known as the fast food lunatic. His face flushed crimson with rage. I gave you a way out, and you refused to take it. Do you really think your family's filthy money can make this go away? Oh, so you're the victim now. What's your excuse? Isn't Enin the one who's been wronged here? I didn't want to waste my breath arguing with him any further. I called for security, and a commotion erupted outside. He suddenly pressed against the door and shouted, Zhao Min, have you come back too? My heart skipped a beat. That was a strange thing to say. My phone suddenly pushed me an article titled, People Can Awaken Memories That Aren't Their Own When Under Stress. Thud, the phone clattered to the floor. I had just been deliberately provoking him. And then security showed up and chased him off like he was a thief. He had never suffered such a profound humiliation before. Perhaps in his rage, under the extreme emotional strain, memories from his past life awakened. Not long after he left, I opened my phone again and found that Xiaoyin had hidden all her social media posts. He woke up to it too late. I had already saved everything. A sudden thrill shot through me. Beating him with an information advantage was nothing special. Wouldn't it be far more satisfying to crush him underfoot in this life he's been given a second chance at? Exciting, isn't it? Under such perfectly fair conditions, what new tricks could my mild-mannered, unambitious husband possibly pull off? Time was of the essence. I quickly compiled my spending records for Lin Qing and the screenshots from Xiaoyin's social media into a single PDF. I always keep my receipts when I buy things, so I have proof for every single item he stole. One coincidence is nothing, but when every single detail matches up, It tells the whole story. During the days lynching and I were on the outs, I wasn't idle. I kept tabs on him, watching what he was up to. He's a complete and utter freeloader, and there's no changing that. Since they couldn't freeload off me anymore, they started following Xiaoyin around. I managed to snap quite a few photos on the sly. I went through all the gifts Xiaoyin flaunted online, every time. A luxury handbag was placed in the most prominent spot. This isn't something an average fan could afford. She's just a minor influencer with a few tens of thousands of followers, and her daily expenses aren't low either. So where on earth did she get the money to buy all these bags? I sent pictures of all these bags to my best friend. She's got a great eye and can spot a fake a mile away. Holy crap, these are all genuine. But they look familiar. I think Wang Yu bought these exact ones. Heard he got them for his girlfriend. She's the biggest gossip. Wang Yu has been our classmate since we were kids. Total rich kid. I checked, and he really did post about buying bags for his girlfriend. After comparing them one by one, it was a near-perfect match. Lynching has been reborn, so he's a tough nut to crack, but Xiaoyin should be easy to intimidate. After coming to my senses, I put my old SIM card back in and openly added Xiaoyin on WeChat. Her message was dripping with smugness. Is Sister Minmin here to apologize? It's fine, I forgive you. I smirked. I'm afraid it's you who'll be on your knees begging for my forgiveness. End of story. I'm sending the PDF over. Take a good look. You were just playing the victim and talking nonsense, but I have the proof. That's all for the first story. Don't go away. The next one is even more thrilling. My husband is as unassuming as a chrysanthemum. My parents pulled strings to get him a job. But he just railed against how bureaucracy corrupts society. He got into trouble and couldn't graduate, so I sent gifts to his advisor. He turned around and reported me, saying I was fostering corruption. I worked tirelessly to manage our household, and all he says is, don't be so materialistic in life. For 60 years of marriage, his only contribution was a passive, conflict-avoidant presence. But after I passed away, before the first week of mourning was even over, he couldn't wait to marry his first love, penning the line, 6 decades we lived apart. No letter could convey my longing heart. It pissed me off so much I came back to life. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day I got my marriage license at 23. Hold the wedding. I'm going to grad school. Trying to win me back. He said, there's nothing between me and Ener. I'm sick of saying it myself. I rolled my eyes and sneered. What the hell are you even saying, tough guy? I died of illness at the age of 83. Before my first week memorial had even passed, the husband I'd spent 60 years with made a grand, public spectacle of marrying his first love, Xiaoyin. Also, you didn't expect that Wang Yu and I were elementary school classmates, did you? Would you like me to forward the details about you and lynching to him? You know better than I do how Wang Yu would react if he found out you're using his money to support another man. When I think about it, there were always so many suspicious things about lynching and Xiaoyin's relationship. They kept in touch on and off for a full 60 years. And in the end, they simply outlived me. He brought her home as his wife, to live in the house I had bought. They invited a house full of guests. The living room couldn't even hold them all. To make room for their wedding photos and red candles, they just moved my portrait right out. Lin Chang's face showed no trace of a man who had just lost his wife. He was positively beaming. Then again, he was marrying the woman he loved most in his life. A moment later, the phone rang. Zhao Min, what do you want? Her voice trembled uncontrollably. I watched as the fish took the bait. First, don't tell Lin Chang about what happened today. Second, issue a public apology to me on all platforms. Okay, I promise. I'll cut ties with Brother Ching, she pleaded repeatedly. To show their gratitude to the guests, Lin Chang played the qin. While Xiaoyin danced to the music, he played slowly, and she moved with faltering steps, just like a couple who had endured great hardship and finally reconciled. I was with him for 60 years, and not once did he play the qin for me. I asked him to, but he said, the qin should be played only for a true confidant. It turns out that Xiaoyin was his one and only true confidant all along. Lin Chang, your first wife is watching from heaven. I wanted to scream, to roar, but not a sound escaped my lips. It was time for the speeches. With tears in his eyes, he said, Zhao Min was too calculating. I've lived my whole life in exhaustion, never truly following my own heart. Pity, I never keep my promises to green TB asterisk cheese. He embellished the details about lynching and Xiaoyin. And then sent all of our chats and call records to Wang Yu. He was out drinking when he heard about it, and people say he was so furious he smashed the table on the spot. Xiaoyin is going to have a rough time of it now. That spoiled rich kid not only forced Xiaoyin to apologize to me, but also ordered her to go live and confess everything about how she deceived his feelings and framed me. Wang Yu stormed over to Xiaoyin's school. The amount involved was so large. And she was suspected of fraud, that she was expelled on the spot. After fighting tooth and nail to escape the backwoods, it all came crashing down in an instant. This time, Lin Qing knew better than to make a sound. The full force of the netizens' fury was directed at Xia Yin, while he managed to slip away unscathed, largely avoiding the fallout. After the dust had settled for a while, he issued a statement. It was the classic "I only ever saw her as a little sister" line. He recounted how he helped her get into university and maintained that all their subsequent interactions were appropriate, never crossing any lines. Some so-called friends actually took his side and spoke up for him. He didn't waste his second chance at life after all. He's recently learned how to play the game. Shedding his usual aloofness, he took the initiative to treat his roommates and club colleagues to a meal. The money was definitely scrounged from Xia Yin, so essentially, he used Wang Yu's cash to whitewash his own reputation. He who accepts food is bound to speak for the giver. Having eaten his meal, I couldn't very well not put in a good word for him. Netizens also judged him to be an innocent, good man deceived by Xia Yin. That day, as soon as I went downstairs, I saw Lin Qing leaning against the wall, waiting for me. I glanced back. The security camera was only a meter away, and the guard post was very close. He wouldn't dare try anything. "What's up?" I was the first to speak. Lin Qing approached, and there was a different air about him. "Minmin, I have to say, you're a wonderful wife. You've changed me a lot, and your methods are truly effective." He was already full of himself on a normal day, and now that he's been reborn, he's practically floating on air with pride. I gave a faint smile. "Of course, stray dogs just scavenge for scraps. Would you like me to chew it up and feed it to you? Don't be so stubborn now." True to an octogenarian, Lin Qing was much more composed. "You're just upset that I married Xia Yin after you passed away. I know I was wrong. This time, we are united as husband and wife. It will naturally be different from our last life." He reached out his hand to me. I spat the chewed-up gum right into his palm. "Don't flatter yourself. After failing to get that promotion in my past life, I started my own business. To my surprise, it was a huge success. Everything went smoothly. And even Lin Qing ended up living a life of luxury because of it. He's not that poor kid from the sticks anymore. He's grown accustomed to the good life and can't handle the slightest hardship. Otherwise, wouldn't bother with empty pleasantries with me either. Getting rich the honest way is too hard. It's much sweeter to be a kept man. That's the lesson he learned in his 80 years. Lin Qing glared at me furiously. The piece of bubble gum in his hand a dilemma, to throw it away or to keep it. "Zhao Min, this is the last time, you just wait." He then turned and left. He's like a piece of chewed-up gum, utterly useless and annoyingly clingy. He couldn't afford to take a gap year to prepare for grad school, so he had to find a job first. But to my surprise, he managed to woo Miss Yang, a young lady from a prominent family, by living frugally, and naturally landed a job at her family's company. Well, good for him. At least he's got a pretty face going for him. A leopard can't change its spots. A man who's determined to be a social climber won't change his ways, not in 1,000 lifetimes. The only way to stop him from harming others is to send him straight to hell, to be reborn as a beast. Miss Yan paid no mind to the gossip and rumors about his past. She was convinced it was all a misunderstanding, believing her darling boyfriend was simply a good man, free from worldly desires and contention. She sought me out specifically for this matter. Arranging to meet at a cafe. "Miss Zhao, you and Qing had some unpleasant history, but all that is in the past now." She was referring to how, because of me, Lin Qing has had a hard time getting by in the industry. Before, no company would take him. Now that Yang Corp he's not delivering results, making it very difficult to justify things to Mr. Yang, especially given the salary he's demanding. That's no small feat. After I got into graduate school, my advisor often brought me into the research group to work on projects. Lin Qing overestimates himself. He's always trying to compete with my group. He's utterly useless, yet he's completely oblivious to it. In his past life, that professorship of his was completely bogus, bought with my money and connections. His so-called expertise was only applicable in a lab or classroom setting and couldn't be scaled for mass production, which is why Yang's company kept bleeding money. I always felt that after his rebirth, he became blindly overconfident, perhaps even losing the drive he once had. It's no use. Even with the Yang family backing him, he couldn't land a single deal. I set down my coffee, the rich bitterness spreading in my mouth. "You're overthinking it. I just didn't give him special treatment like I used to, because I have you now." Of course, my parents felt for me. After learning what a despicable scoundrel Lin Qing was, they went out of their way to make trouble for him. I didn't stop them. I couldn't just let their efforts go to waste. It was the least I could do to honor their intentions. Anyway, he and I are getting married, let's just let bygones be bygones. I apologize on his behalf for all the wrong he's done to you, said Miss Yang. She then stood up and bowed. I stood up as well, sidestepping to avoid the gesture. Lin Cheng's learned a thing or two, hasn't he, getting good at buttering people up. I looked at the ring on her finger. She gave an embarrassed smile. Yes, he's very good to me. If he's so good to you, why would he put a fake on your finger? I asked, raising an eyebrow. My mother has a collection of items, including quite a few pieces of jewelry. Growing up around them, I learned by example and developed a keener eye for appreciating jewelry than most people. I can guarantee you this is a fake, but he really put thought into it for you. This counterfeit is a high-quality replica. Most people wouldn't be able to tell. Come on, Miss Yang covered her fingers awkwardly. He must have been taken in by someone. I'll talk to him when I get back. He's a grown man. If he can't even apologize for himself, I can't imagine there's much hope for a future with him. It was advice from someone who's been there, but sadly, she didn't take it. The next time I heard news about them, the whole city of A was buzzing with it. The Yang family's daughter was pregnant out of wedlock, and Mr. Yang was furious. He disapproved of his daughter's marriage to that poor boy, but Lin Qing had the audacity to get her pregnant, using the child to force his hand. I sighed repeatedly. The man he used to be was at least a hypocrite. Now, having shed that skin, he's worse than a beast. He pulled up in his luxury car, once again. Right outside my apartment building. Zhao Min, when will you learn not to look down on a young man in his humble beginnings? I sneered, looking at him as if he were a dog in its death throes, and said in a low voice, you know what? I thought you still had a conscience. It seems I was mistaken. Your words don't anger me. I'm not some green kid anymore. I learned from you, using any means necessary to achieve my goal. This feeling is wonderful. His eyes were filled with a greedy light. I shook my head. Learn from me. He was a bad seed to begin with. It was desire that lit the fuse in his heart, causing all the malice to burst forth. What does that have to do with me? For every demonic trick, there is a righteous countermeasure. He smiled. Zhao Min, I'll be waiting for the day you get down on your knees and beg me, watching his retreating figure. How could I possibly stand by and let him devour the entire Yang family fortune? What he didn't know was that I had already accounted for everything he stole back then. I just hadn't acted on it yet. After being disciplined, Xia Yin became much more compliant and was willing to step forward as a witness. But Lin Qing is as tenacious as a cockroach, and Miss Yang will protect him for the sake of the child in her belly. That day, we met again at the same coffee shop, but this time, I was the one who asked her out. She's a simple-minded girl who holds no ill will towards me. Her predecessor, it's clear she's a poor thing who genuinely loves that scumbag. When is the wedding date set for? She gave a shy smile. The 15th of next month. I nodded and handed her the phone. Her face instantly went pale. Miss Zhao, I can return all the money to you. I beg you. I tapped my fingers on the table. I don't need the money, but I don't want scum like this to get away with it. What do you gain by marrying him and having this child? Because of a father with a criminal record, the child will lose all the opportunities they deserve in life. The more I spoke, the paler her face became, as if she was on the verge of collapsing. Take care of yourself. This isn't about you or the unborn child. A man like him can't be kept around. For your sake and mine. Just as she was about to plead with me again, I handed her a manila envelope. I didn't want to upset you further, but we have to clear the air today. She leafed through the documents again and again, then slammed them down on the table and buried her face in her hands, sobbing. How could he do this to me? I loved him so much. Lin Qing had tasted the high life, and his appetite had grown accordingly. These were all the fraudulent contracts he signed with the Yang Group, siphoning off hundreds of millions in funds. If my covert investigation hadn't uncovered the irregularities in the Yang Group's books, it would have been Miss Yang's father who took the fall. Once her father was behind bars, her entire life would have been at Lin Cheng's mercy. After all this, you still want to take his side. I gently shattered the last line of defense in her heart. Even though she was blinded by love, she couldn't just abandon all her principles. In my past life, she took my miserable fate, yet I feel no relief or joy by earnestly advising her now and pulling her out of the mire. I am also saving the person I was back then. I reported him to the police for theft, with both witnesses and material evidence at the ready. It took several summons before he finally deigned to show up. His nonchalant demeanor suggested he still believed the Yang family had his back. Zhao Min, don't waste your effort. My time is valuable. His entire outfit had been upgraded several notches, a gift from Yang Xiao. She bought a fake, pouring her heart out to him. I can't believe it. We were in a relationship, and you're being so stingy over such a trivial thing, making a huge fuss. That act of his, treating money like dirt, came out again. I'm willing to give all the money back to you. Consider it a blessing for the child about to be born, and a prayer for its well-being. I have to say, since he entered society, he hasn't learned anything of substance, but he's mastered the art of being two-faced to a T. Everything here is being recorded. Please choose your words carefully. You think you still have money, still such a dreamer. I clapped my hands. Lynching took a few steps back, his face a mixture of shock and doubt. What did you say? He's become much sharper. But it's a shame it's too late. Miss Young walked in. A mere child dares to try and take the Young family from me. I could skin you alive and drink your blood. She stepped forward. She slapped him across the face, again and again. She beat him senseless. Clutching his heavily swollen cheek, he asked in disbelief, "What's wrong with you?" "We've seen through your scheme," I said, tossing the documents in front of him. Although Lynching was a fool, he still possessed a certain low cunning. As the saying goes, a wily rabbit has 3 burrows. He had long prepared an escape route abroad, ready to abscond with the money and leave the mess for the Young family. He remains at large. Arresting him rashly would only tip him off. It's better to use the theft as bait to lure him out, leaving him no chance to escape. Seeing the game was up, Lynching knelt on the ground. "You set me up. Well played. If you knew it would come to this, you shouldn't have started it in the first place," I said, looking down at him. He let out a maniacal laugh, sprang to his feet, and lunged at me with a small knife. "If you won't let me live in peace, then you can die." A police officer, quick as a flash, kicked him away. The knife flew from his hand, grazing my cheek. It didn't hurt, but a bead of blood welled up and trickled down to my neck. It was barely a scratch, but for him, it was just another crime added to the list. Through the maneuvering of my parents and the Young family, he was ultimately sentenced to life imprisonment, destined to grow old and die behind bars. A person may be as mild as a chrysanthemum, and duplicity is still preferable to a wicked heart. He never expected his own cleverness to be his undoing, leaving him worse off than in his previous life. Miss Young suffered a major setback in love and said she fears she may never again have the courage to marry. She loved children and couldn't bear to part with this one. No matter who the father is, this child is still yours. That will never change. If you want to keep it, then keep it. Later, she took my advice and had the baby, who grew up strong and healthy. After my supervisor's repeated persuasion, I chose to pursue a doctorate. I started my own business while still in school, drawing on my past life experience and the solid knowledge I had accumulated. By the time I graduated, my company was already on the right track. It was then that it dawned on me. I could have had it all along. One evening after work, I ran into a shabbily dressed old Taoist priest on the street. I casually picked up some food for him at the convenience store. He took it and began wolfing it down. Suddenly, he looked up at me, his dim, aged eyes flashing with a sharp light. "You are one who has returned from the underworld, unable to rest in peace." I neither confirmed nor denied it. He smacked his lips and continued, "And you brought someone back with you. Ha ha ha, how fitting. What goes around comes around. Grudges will be repaid, debts will be settled, no one escapes, even in death. You get dragged back, to suffer. That's the cycle of the world." The moment the words were spoken, he vanished. I'm not afraid, just filled with a sense of wonder. Since then, I've always tried to do good. Only by leaving something meaningful behind would this second chance feel worthwhile. I believe in settling scores, but there are things in life far more important than vengeance. That's all for today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe. If you have any suggestions, feel free to leave a comment below. See you in the next video.